Wow. Leona, I start feeling a bit teared up every time I hear somebody like Leona speak. And I think it reminds some of us that have been at this quite a long time just why we do what we do and why we stay here. So just bear with me a moment. Hopefully I can kind of... It is actually very upsetting for parents like us, however hard and professional we like to think we are. But it just takes you back to why we do this. So, what am I going to talk about? I am a parent. I'll talk about that in a moment. And I am a parent like some of the other parents in the room, Angela, Leona, Christopher and Karen, and I'm sorry if I miss anybody else, that realised, I think, kind of quite early on that the treatment we were getting for our children wasn't good enough. And I think we were also parents because we've all started a kind of conversation with many other parents across and not-for-profit organisations across the world, across Europe, in that we've started off saying this isn't good enough and we really, really don't think this is good enough, but nobody's listening to us. So what can we do to really make a difference and really try and kind of change things? And the one thing I certainly noticed early on were the amount of silos that were happening in the industry, and I could see people nodding. And really, really difficult, I think, from a parent coming into this world and seeing that people didn't seem to be collaborating, and that there was this kind of sometimes a distrust between the stakeholders involved. I think that's very hard as a parent. So I'm going to talk to you about Unite2Cure, and I hope at the end of this presentation, the one thing I would really like you to do is to sign up to our website. And there's lots of exciting things happening kind of downstream, which I can't really talk about now because they're a bit too complicated, but there'll be lots of signposts off to find out more. But really, I want to engage you. So I hope if I'm successful at the end of this presentation, you will sign up to our website and hopefully sign our petition. And remember the Unite2Cure name. So, this is my daughter on the right, Chloe. Chloe was 15 when she was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma, which is a primary bone cancer, usually strikes between 15 and 18 years old. The same story, she was treated with drugs that were 30 to 40 years old, all hand-me-downs from the adult industry. She was treated on a protocol that I think I'm right in saying was about 15, 20 years old. In fact, a doctor once admitted to me late at night that it was hardly cutting-edge treatment. As Leona was saying, coming off the street and coming into this world, you just can't really believe it. This is a friend's daughter, Laura. It was 10 years ago yesterday that she died. A really interesting story. Interesting is the wrong word. But Cesare, her parent, was a drug development specialist, and he has a really interesting take on it, that he was working in drug development and suddenly thought, but people who work in drug development, children don't get cancer, do they? Yes, they do. And both these children died. My daughter died at 18. And there was no surprise that she died because the treatment was highly unlikely to work. I'm a journalist. I was a Sky News journalist and was used to fighting and used to kind of campaigning for things. I was totally horrified by what I saw. So I went on and used my media contacts, got together with Maurice Sarch, she became part of his communications team, worked on the medical innovation bill, and we started to get some kind of traction in Parliament, and started to get listened to, going to the House of Commons, newspaper headlines. But what was really interesting though, was though we spoke to all these people and engaged with all these people, nothing really happened. And actually, what was becoming very clear was that the medical innovation bill, which was the Saatchi bill, was actually antagonizing people. And the doctors started to kind of because maybe it wasn't kind of meeting the right solution. So it didn't work very well. I think it did kick the can further down the road, but it didn't achieve what we wanted it to achieve. And I found that personally a very interesting experience. Whoops, why aren't I moving on? Aha. Did I skip one? Right, okay. So we realized that if a child came into the clinic today, my daughter died 3 years ago in 2013, I don't think a lot would have changed. And in that 3 years, I can't honestly say hand in heart that anything is different, and all the work that us parents, everybody else has been doing, nothing much has changed. And there is really, I think we all talk about this and really feel this urgency of actually families going through this now. And what should we be doing? How can we really, really accelerate this kind of work? It's a shocking fact to me that 6,000 children in Europe die of cancer. That's 6,000 children, 6,000 families, 6,000 communities that are absolutely lives are torn apart and never, ever mend, because their child dies. Leona's already touched on this, but these, and it's funny, I always remember saying, and I know it's a difficult audience to say this in, but I remember saying I wish my child had leukemia because of the progress that has been made in certain kinds of leukemia. I don't say that lightly, and I understand the implications of treatment for leukemia. But things like Ewing sarcoma, especially if it's metastasized at diagnosis, you really haven't got a chance at all. And when it comes to your child dying, when your odds are so low, you think, well, even if my child could live with amputated leg, whatever it is, your whole kind of reality changes. And these cancers are really just not interesting for industry. Current legislation, which we're going to talk about in a moment, doesn't help very much. It's set up to help, but it's a very complicated situation and it doesn't help very much. Remembering I'm a Sky News journalist, you're going to get all of this delivered in 20-second sound bites. So there will be signposts off if you want any more information, because it is actually a very complicated subject to cover. Industry, as we've already known, industry is not interested in children. And whether it's the right thing to do or not, if you work in a private company, as I do a lot of PR for private companies, they are not interested. And we have to find different ways, actually it's a personal opinion of mine, we have to find different ways of understanding that they are private companies and that we have to do some kind of risk sharing and not just kind of hit out at industry the whole time to say that they're doing the wrong thing. And we need to start this kind of deeper, it's what I learned a lot working with Laura Saatchi, of starting this deeper conversation and starting with trust and trying to get stakeholders together rather than trying to blame people, but actually trying to start those deeper conversations. And as parents, I think we can play a really important role in really getting people to collaborate, asking those difficult questions and trying to bring people together. Because at the end of the day, what we need is solutions, not just arguments. So we started Unite2Cure. We were a group of parents that were working in a particular work stream. We are across the world, we have links across the world, and we wanted to make the most of that. We wanted to start a grassroots movement, which was very much parent NGO-led, but very, very closely aligned with stakeholders. It meant we were in the argument. We've got inside the kind of tent. There's no point shouting from outside the tent. We wanted to be part of the conversations so that we could win trust and collaborate, but we could challenge assertively when we needed to. And I think this works a lot better than going and grabbing media headlines saying that pharmaceutical industry is awful, but we're actually part of the conversation. We want to, which is quite an exciting part of it actually, we want to embrace the full potential of social media and working with all different kinds of people across the world, we can really kind of start to enhance, to try and grab that and grab all the ideas that we can do to get our messages out there. So though we are a kind of movement, I think our main unique selling point is that we're providing a communications platform for all the fantastic work that is already happening out there and making this effort to try and draw things together and to share information. We want like-minded individuals. We want people who want to really find solutions and who want to, there's parents, doctors, lawyers, PR people, teachers, everything. People have so many skills. And if I was looking at this as a piece of private work, I think, God, all this passion and these skills we have, how can we really mobilize this kind of thing? So we're trying to do that around a kind of banner of Unite2Cure, that everybody can run their own organization. I know lots of people are driven by their own stories, but that we find this kind of platform and this place where we can bring people together. We want to reach those seldom heard voices, those people. I remember when I first started, and I had the benefit of having lots of media contacts, so people would listen to me. But there are lots of people out there just saying, how have I got into this world? So how can we reach them and bring them into our fold, really? I think it provides a support, apart from anything else, but gives somebody somewhere to come, somewhere to say, this isn't fair. I want to share my story. I want somebody to help me fight for my child. The narrative is extremely important. Those kind of real-life stories, incredibly painful to share, and it's so difficult for people to share, but so important to understand what it actually means, because a lot of us, Leona's story is so similar to mine. The feelings she expressed so similar to mine. I bet there are lots of people out there who have those same feelings. We're quite a feisty bunch. We want to be collaborative, but we can challenge assertively when we need to. And we have people like Kevin and Karen that have been at this for a lot longer than I have, and incredibly knowledgeable. We're building a real kind of knowledge base to be able to challenge, but have very kind of informed conversations as well. This is something I've found is really, really important about the whole work that, since I've been working in this world for 3 years, it's actually coming together. You've got a lot of people who are quite traumatized, and a lot of professionals that have worked in this industry for a long time and seen things not moving very fast. And if I was a doctor working in this industry, I think, yeah, I know what all these problems are. Please don't come and tell me. I know what they are. So I think we have to kind of be kind to each other a bit and understand that people are trying to do the best they can. And it's actually, the key is to carry on working together, and we may disagree, and we've had many of feisty disagreements between us parents, but we've gone through, and we have now gotten quite a close-knit group. So building that trust amongst ourselves, building that trust amongst doctors. So whereas we might disagree, we know that we are kind of on the same side, fighting for the same thing. There are many targets. The deeper you get into this subject, the more complicated I think it gets, and you suddenly understand why not a lot has been done. That's before Kevin jumps up, it's 2017, not 2007, the review of the regulations. So in Unite2Cure, we have many conversations about what we're trying to do, what we're trying to achieve. And I think the main thing is we're trying to find solutions to the problems, not keep coming up and saying, yeah, just the awareness about childhood cancer, but we're trying to find solutions to what the problems are. And also, I think, certainly speaking for myself, I was never interested in, though people like the Teenage Cancer Trust do some fantastic work, my interest was my child was going to die without this drug. My interest is in drugs, purely and simple. And I think that is what we've kind of built around, that lots of other charities do other things about quality of life issues, but we want better drugs for our children, better drugs to make them live, or better drugs to make them live in a better way, a kinder way. So I'm going to talk about the regulations in a minute. We want to really share and get hold of these parent initiatives that are really breaking through and doing some fantastic work. And I'm going to talk about Christopher Smile in a minute. That these people are actually parent-driven. They are making a difference, really changing things. And how really Unite2Cure is trying to mobilize all of us behind these projects so we can all help other parents drive through projects that they've got off the ground. I'm involved in an organization called APOD, which I'll talk about in a minute as well. Talking about this communications platform, as a communications person, I would say this, but absolutely critical that we have this kind of one place where we can share everything. And that doesn't mean we're stopping anybody doing anything else. We just want to know about it, and so we can link people, collaborate, share information, making sure people are having the right conversations. and such a personal one of mine, building bridges and breaking down these silos. It's not acceptable for people to work in silos, and especially when the stakes are so high. So how do we keep challenging in a polite and collaborative and sensible way? Not just throwing stones, but really saying, actually, this is not okay, but keep on saying the same thing as well. Getting those deeper conversations, getting people involved in those deeper conversations. Now, Unite2Cure was set up by a group of parents, first of all, but we are totally welcoming and totally open to anybody who wants to come in. And it really is the kind of legwork that we need and the passion. So anybody who's interested, please grab either me, Angela, or Leona afterwards, and we'd love to hear from you. Because you can help in lots of different ways. We're trying to be European, first of all, but we have lots of links with the States as well. And if you look on our site, we're supported by lots of kind of big figures in the industry, from lots of doctors to a lot of the charities as well. And you can see that on our website. But this is just a selection of the people who started Unite2Cure. We were the ones that kind of got together in the first place. And we're very happy to add anybody else's name here. Okay, lobbying for regulation change. Now, this is a biggie. We've decided this is our kind of #1 priority. The regulations, the European regulations around childhood cancer, are extraordinarily complicated and very boring. And we have this fantastic guy called Chris Copeland, who is a detailed guy and goes through this. And I know Kevin and Karen have done a lot of work in this field as well. In my journalistic way, I'm going to sum up that basically industry does not consider children to be a return on investment. So they look for ways to avoid investing in childhood cancer. There's a kind of strong financial incentive not to invest in childhood cancer. So when they have a drug that, for example, fidgetuniumab would be a drug that worked on lung cancer, it also was strongly indicated that it would work on Ewing sarcoma. They would make a request that they were going to trial this drug on lung cancer. They might have to add Ewing sarcoma into the mix. With this particular drug, they happen to put an 18 lower age range on it because it's more difficult to do research into children. And they're allowed to get away with that, even though this drug could have been hugely, hugely beneficial for people with some sarcomas. So we want to lobby to get much stronger proposals in place that drug companies need now to start looking at the mechanism of action of a particular cancer, which means lots of cancers share the same mechanism of action. So just because I know a lot about Ewing sarcoma may well share lots of similarities with something like ovarian cancer or lung cancer. And there's lots of cancers like that if it's going to work in one, there's a likelihood it might work in another one. So it's a very simplistic way of saying it. So we are trying to push for the fact that drug companies need to have a very, very strong case if they're going to apply for a waiver, which means that they don't have to investigate this drug in childhood cancer. Have I done that all right, Kevin? Karen? Do you want to add anything? No. Additional to that is age range. We want to push for things like the fact that some drug companies will put a lower age range of 18 on their drugs, when, if you think about Ewing's, the prime age you get Ewing's is 15. How ludicrous is it to have a trial of a drug when the lower age range is 18? And that's something I personally got very tangled up in. So really important that this work we're doing in regulation is really important. There's nothing we can do now at the moment to help the guys that are working on this, but apart from sign up for the website. So the main message we've got at the moment is please sign up for our website, because we really will need you guys in future, because we need to start lobbying our own MPs and our own Minister for Health and Life Sciences. And at some point we really need lots of people, lots of voices behind this. But we've got a strategic time plan. So we will be coming out with a kind of toolkit and a time frame of when we need people to help. So please, please, please sign up to our website. We also have a petition on the website around regulation. And if you could sign this petition and really, if you could add your personal story, your personal comments, because that really helps us with our narrative. There they are, Kevin and Karen, who are sitting here. They were on the news recently, loads of media coverage about the absolutely fantastic and tireless work that they have done. It's a new approach for genetic testing for what cancer? It's for across the range, right. Very much around precision medicine, that you're trying to find out exactly the biology of a cancer so you can get kind of targeted drugs for particular cancers. I'm not going to go into too much of it now, but if you just Google Christopher Smile, BBC, they're on the BBC, explains all about what this treatment is about. And that is something that would fit so beautifully with Unite2Cure, and why we're so supportive of Kevin and Karen, because it is somebody who has worked tirelessly to find a solution and to fund a solution and have a very, very kind of targeted approach, and stayed the course for so many years and really, really making a difference. And these are the kind of people we really need to be supporting and mobilising behind. So absolutely brilliant work. This is one that's very close to my heart. I sit on the board of APOD with Cesare, who's a scientist in Italy. Actually lives in Hungary. We also have drug development specialists. We have 3 pharmaceutical people on the board and a German oncologist. So really kind of trying to push down those borders, work across country boundaries. I was going to say something about Brexit, but I promised I wouldn't, but that would be disastrous. So it's a bit political. But we really we need these boundaries to come down. We are working on a particular approach where you're using crowdfunding and altruistic funding to work with the pharmaceutical industry. It's driven by parents, but it's supported by drug development experts. It's a new kind of model of care. And something I believe very, very passionately in. And if you take this website down and want to give just £5, you could have a role in a new drug for brain cancer. That there is a very, very early compound for brain cancer, but it's extremely well thought out, extremely well targeted, and again, we hope it will make a real difference and set up a new model of care that we can engage the pharmaceutical industry with and have that deeper conversation, understanding where the pharmaceutical companies are coming from, and actually saying, okay, guys, we don't want you to take all the risk, we'll take some of the risk as well, and we'll work with you, and we see that as the way forward. God, I've spoken for a long time. So, what do we want you to do? The main message from today, and I hope I've made some sense in this kind of rattling through this, we want you to sign up to our website, become part of our movement, become part of the conversation, give us your experience, give us your stories, whatever else, any ideas. We really want to open this up and be really welcoming to everybody, no boundaries, just come in, tell us how you can help, what you want us to know, how we can share. We want to build a big audience. We've got thousands signed up, particularly for our petition, but we want to really get some energy behind this. You can email either me or Nicole if you just want to give us any personal ideas. Sharing your story is a really good one. If you want to and you're comfortable with it, we can find ways of sharing your story. We can help with media if that's something you want to do. It's not for everybody, but it certainly helps our cause. Signing our petition and share good practice and bad practice. I remember feeling so alone when my daughter was treated. So it's another way of just kind of phoning up. So actually, this has happened to me. How can I get some kind of support with this? And we can often link people together or whatever. Blog for us. Lots of people do most fantastic blogs. We want to share those blogs. We want this to be a kind of one-stop shop for everything that happens in childhood cancer. And that's how we'll get some power. That's how the politicians will start to listen to us more, talk to us more. And basically, we just want to hear from you and carry on these conversations. There's no magic solutions, but we want to make sure we're sharing good practice where we can and challenging bad practice. Thank you very much for your time.